Hari Om everyone, and welcome back to the Lalita-Sahasra-Nama. We will begin with the meditation shlokas as always. Sinduraruna vigraham trinayanam manikyamolis purattaranayakashekaram smitamukhi mapinavakshoruham Panibhyamalipurnarnachashakam raktotpalam bimbratim Saumyam ratnagatastaraktacharanam dhyayet paramambikam Dhyayet padmasanastham vikasitavadanam padmapatrayatakshim Hemabham pitavastram karakalitalasadhema padmam varangim Sarvalankara yuktam satatamabhayadam bhaktadamram bhavanim Shri Vidyam Shantamurtim Sakalasudanutam Sarvapansampatpradatrim Sakunkumavilepana Manikachumbikasturikam Samandahasite Kshanam Sacharacha Papashankusham Ashishajana Mohini Marunamalya Bhushambaram Japa Kusuma Bhasuram Japavidho Smaredambikam Arunam Karunatarangitakshim Dritapashankushapushpabana Chapam Animadibhiravritam Mayukairahamityeva Vibhavaye Bhavanim. We remember the last time our text said that the Divine Mother, who is pure awareness or consciousness, Chitti Shakti, the energy of consciousness, removes all greed, all anger. This essentially means that when we abide in the energy of consciousness through meditative practices, through sadhana, we are slowly freed of those very emotions that caused us to suffer in the first place. That's really what it primarily means. And also, of course, that the form of the Divine Mother, when meditated upon, uproots the ills of samsara and those states which cause us to feel pain and suffering and grief. Tvat rupam bhavyamanam bhavati bhavabhayo chittaye janma bhajam. Your form, when meditated upon, uproots samsara for those who are subject to birth and so on. We could say that her form is an antidote to samsaric problems. When we take her form or the Shri Yantra and we meditate upon it with concentration, bringing our distracted mind back upon the focus of concentration again and again, then slowly this uproots the samsaric ills we are subject to. She is nisamshaya. She is free from any doubt, free from any kind of uncertainty. Shri Krishna says in the Gita that one whose nature has become doubt or uncertainty goes to ruin. We see this from the smallest level in our life to the highest level, that it is in fact the deepest forms of doubt which cause our confusion. And she is utterly free from doubt. In her state, everything is crystal clear. And being thus, she is also samshayagni. She destroys doubt. She annihilates our own doubts. So the deeper we engage with her through devotion and meditation, the more slowly our doubts will be uprooted and removed. And then one day in the future, we will be absolutely free from doubt. We will know with total clarity the truths of samsara, the truths of liberation, the truths of deities, of divinity, the truths of the gurus, and so on. She is free from samsara, this process of becoming something. The word is bhava in Sanskrit. Bhavati iti bhavaha. Always becoming something. If you closely observe your bodily states, your sensations that come through the senses, your mental states, your emotional states, your perceptions, your cognitions, you closely observe them right now. Not as a theory. If you closely observe them, you will see with the shock that they are always becoming something. They never just are. They don't ever just abide quietly, peacefully. They're constantly becoming something. Just observe it for a moment. Constantly turning into something, becoming something. Can you see it? That is samsara. And she's free from that. She's not becoming something. She's the vessel within which all this becoming occurs. It is like the sky and the clouds. These are very well-known examples. It's like the sky and the clouds. The clouds are constantly moving. They're constantly becoming something or turning into something, whereas the sky itself, the vessel in which the clouds are becoming something, is totally free of any becoming. And thus she is bhavanashini. She removes the becoming from us. That which causes all these troubles of birth, disease, old age, death, all this little becoming and all these emotions, all these desires and aversions are removed through her luminosity, through her light, through her unimpeded presence. She's free from conceptual notions. She's free from ideas, nirvikalpa, free from changing ideas. Again, the sky is the best example, although it is sometimes a little overused in the scriptures, but it is the best example. There is almost no better example. If you look at space, space is free from everything. It's free of every limitation. And yet everything is occurring in space. She's exactly like that. She is not disturbed or impeded by anything. Nirabadha. Nothing can stop, block, obstruct her. Again, if you look at the nature of space, it is like that. And you see, meditation on space is one of the highest forms of meditating upon the Absolute. Kam Brahma, the Absolute is space. Many, they go into a discussion at this point asking, but isn't Akasha, isn't that just an element? And yes, it is true, but the subtlemost aspect of that element is the same as consciousness. That is why we also speak about Chidakasha, the space of consciousness or the space of awareness. Thus, meditating on space is almost the same as meditating upon the absolute. If you again and again bring the nature of space to your mind as you meditate, you are on a very good way. If you are not so focused on deity forms, that is absolutely fine. Then you take space as the object of your meditation. Again and again, observing the inner space within you and the nature of the outer space within which everything is present and occurring. So you look at all the thoughts, feelings, emotions, sensations occurring within you, in space within you, and then you pay attention to all the things occurring in the space outside of you. And then you see how this inner space and the outer space are not really different. They're only separated through your mind or through your mental idea. They're not really different. Yes, this is very powerful way of meditating. And again, like space, she is nirbheda. She has no differences. There is no outer. There is no inner. There is no separation. This is also why, even in the midst of all our confusion and ignorance and suffering and troubles, we can have the confidence that our innermost nature is already this Chitti Shakti, because it has no bheda, it has no distinctions. Thus we can have this confidence in our own true nature, even if it is not apparent to us yet. And of course, approaching her, she becomes Bhedanashini, the one that removes separation, that removes distinction. The deeper we enter into the meditative state, the more this sense of separation becomes very dreamlike, very illusory. It might still be there, but very illusory. And we get a clear taste that all of existence, all of mind experiences occurring within the mind are in fact one single sphere. There is no here and there, and there is no spatial distance even. This is why great yogic practitioners, they know the minds of others at a long distance, the emotions, the minds, the states, even thousands of miles in just an instant, because there is no real separation. That is the proof of it, that separation is just a momentary experience. It is not real in the full absolute sense. And even though she is the one that removes, that annihilates all these things, such as distinctions and separations, greed, all this that we have listed, she herself is nirnasha. She's free from annihilation, free from any kind of cessation, free from any kind of destruction. Simply an unbounded presence that has no beginning, no end, no birth, no death, no limitation, no suffering. A boundless sphere of boundless peace. I hope this gives you a taste of her nature. She crushes death, mrityu matani. Becoming established in her means becoming established in that which is deathless. We go from death to deathlessness when we become established in Chitti Shakti, the energy of consciousness. And yet she is always nishkriya, free from any activity, completely silent. Nothing needs to be done, and yet everything is accomplished spontaneously, without activity, without effort. Thus, when we are totally established in Chitti Shakti, we do not need to aspire or desire or make an effort to this or that. It just spontaneously occurs. Svachandam in Sanskrit. And she does not obtain anything. She is nishparigraha. We make offerings to the Divine Mother, in fact, in order to generate punya for ourselves. Punya for the world. Punya means the sacred storehouse of merit that purifies, that brings auspiciousness. But the gifts we make are not really received by her. She does not need any gift. So if you are giving a gift to Chitti Shakti, it is like throwing a flower into space. It is consumed and yet not received. She is nistula, incomparable, without equal. Nothing can be compared to her, because anything that could be compared would be a content of consciousness, but not the energy of consciousness itself, which is simply knowing, illuminating, aware, giving rise to knowledge, moment to moment to moment to moment, pulsating as pure knowledge, as pure awareness. Nothing can be compared to that. And yet, she is also having luxuriant, curly, black hair. So here the text jumps back into a physical description where the Rishi has a sudden visionary appearance or a visionary encounter and sees that even though this Chitti Shakti, this energy of consciousness, is free of form in its ultimate aspect, yet there is also form. There is also the powerful beauty emanating from her, attracting us. Making our minds blissful, pulling us to her, drawing us to her. And she's free of going away. She never goes away. Why? Because she never came. She never arrived. Where could she go? Nirapaya. Niratyaya. She cannot be transcended. It is not that she is just a deity or a god, a deva, sitting somewhere in a realm, and then there is something higher than that. No, she is the absolute. She is pure awareness. She is pure reality in her innermost nature. Thus she cannot be transcended. And yet we have to be realistic. She is also durlabha, difficult to attain. Don't think just a little bit of japa in the morning, or a little bit of Raghupati Raghava Raja Ram bhajan, or a little bit of meditation in the train will make you attain her. Years and years of intense sadhana, true discipline are required to mold the mind, to melt the strong patterns of the personality that block the full insight into her nature, to our nature. Don't be lazy. Don't think that this can just be done on the side as a hobby. No, your life should be your hobby. This should be your real task. Your work should be your hobby. This should be your real task. Using the precious human existence to get to know this beautiful true nature that is there in all beings. And similarly, she is Durgama. She is approached with great difficulty, reached with great difficulty. That is why she is Durga. Durgama and Durga means the same thing. Attained with great difficulty. But approaching even a little removes great fear. Shri Krishna says in the Gita, Svalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. That even a little bit of this dharma protects from great fear. Thus, don't be dejected or disheartened when someone says she is Durgama, that she is hard to attain, that she is Durlabha. Don't be dejected. See it as like you are going to mine gold, and you go deep into the forest where you know there is a gold mine somewhere, and then you start finding little nuggets of gold in a river there. And that tells you you're on the right track. And the higher up you go, the more nuggets of gold you find. And in the end, you find the gold mine. You understand? It is just that the gold mine itself is hard to reach. And if you find the nuggets and then you say, I found the gold mine, now I can go back, then you've missed the point. This is why the rishis are telling us here, she's hard to reach. It's a hard path. It is not easy. But it's worth it. You see? So this example of the gold nuggets, I think, should inspire you. That right from the start, when you connect with the Divine Mother, there are the gold nuggets. But then there is also the hard effort to go further. Similarly, on the path of sadhana, the moment we enter the path, we have these gold nuggets. There is benefit, for sure. But we also need discipline and continue and continue. She's Dukkha-hantri. She removes our difficulties. She removes our sorrows. She removes our pains. And she's Sukhaprada. And she grants joy, no doubt. But she's far away from evildoers, from those who commit faults, or perhaps we could say offenses. Dushta. Dushta is related to dosha. The doshas are the kleshas, anger, and so forth. And when we are afflicted by these, then we are dushta. And when we engage in them, we are even more dushta. And she's dura, she's far away from those. Which is why when we do not cultivate the most noble compassion, the most noble maitri, you will see maitri karuna will be mentioned later in this text. When we don't cultivate these, the most noble ahimsa, the most noble truthfulness, the most noble mahakaruna, the great compassion for others, a compassion that goes beyond any kind of self-centeredness. When we don't do that, and we're chanting mantras, we feel a little bit something. We feel some benefit perhaps, but then it's always shaky. We always drop back into the samsaric states. We never attain her fully because she is far away from doshas. You see? That is why we have to cultivate this absolute nobility, this absolute compassion for others in order to reap the benefit of her. It is like a dilemma almost. Devo bhutva devam yajet. That one should worship the deity by becoming the deity. This is exactly the same here. If we do not cultivate that absolute compassion again and again and again, and it's doable, everyone can do it. It's just a decision, it's practice. If we don't cultivate that again and again, we can chant millions of mantras. Of course, there will be some benefit, but not that much. It's a sad truth. I hope you don't run away. Aranye rodanam yatha. The scriptures say that it is like shouting in a forest. If you chant millions of mantras, but you don't cultivate compassion, maitri, it is like screaming in a forest. Means I don't know if you have forests in the UK, but I remember in Windsor Park, there is a forest-like structure. And yes, Sherwood Forest, and I'm sure you have a couple of forests. So it's like you take a trip there in your minivan and you go into the forest and you start screaming. What's the benefit of that? You see? That's the example given in the scriptures. If we don't cultivate Maitri Karuna, Mahakaruna, and we're chanting mantras thinking there will be benefit. I'm sorry to tell you the bitter truth. A friend of mine once said that Sachai kadvi hai, I think, something like that he said, that the truth is sometimes bitter. She is also Durachara Shamani. By approaching Chitti Shakti, the energy of consciousness, our negative conduct is pacified. Slowly, slowly. I have always seen it time and again. When sadhakas begin to practice, when they begin to approach Chitti Shakti within their hearts, through Maitri, Karuna, through meditation, also through mantra and other upayas, slowly, slowly the negative conduct is pacified over many months, years, even decades, but it is pacified 100%. And then the fruit is reaped. You see? That is the beauty of it. She herself is dosha varjita, free of the doshas, free of these negative qualities, totally beyond. And we mustn't worry that she's not aware of us, that our deepest nature doesn't know our states right now, because she's sarvajna, she's all-knowing, she's aware of everything. So we don't have to worry. Even in the worst suffering, we can connect to her, and we know that she knows. She is Sandra Karuna. Her compassion is intense, so gentle, so full of all the qualities, pacifying all ills. But remember, that is how our compassion also should be. This is how our karuna should be. If our karuna is not like that, we can't just expect her to help us. There is none who is equal or superior to her. Samana adhikavarjita. She is Sarva Shaktimayi. She contains all energies, all powers. The power to give rise to a physical universe comes from energy. We know through modern science. But here, this kind of energy is also more subtle. It's also the energy of our life force, the energy of our mental force, the energy of consciousness itself, Chitti Shakti. And she is Sarva Mangala, like the Sarva Mangala foundation that we are trying to be active with in the UK and elsewhere. Sarva Mangala, Mangati. Mangati hitartham iti mangalam. Mangala means to move for the benefit, to move for benefit of others is Mangala. And she is Sarva Mangala, all round benefit in every respect, on every level. And she grants Sadgati, Sadgati Prada. Sadgati means when someone dies, and now we are back to our favorite subject, death. When someone dies and that person has connected with Lalita Tripurasundari deeply in their life, not superficially, deeply, not just Raghupati Raghava Rajaram. It has to be a deep, deep, deep connection. Then, at the time of death, she will make sure that their gati, their destination, is a good one. Even if the person has not attained liberation, even if the person has not attained full knowledge of their true nature, enlightenment, or even any kind of realization, still she ensures that the gati is good. That is her promise. And I have also seen time and again that that is true. That it is always beneficial to connect with her deeply, no matter what. Even if you don't feel that much benefit in this life. And yes, that is just belief, absolutely. Like a Christian just believes that Jesus will help them, and he does. This is just belief. I absolutely agree, but the belief is based on the experience of the yogis, of those who can see that. So on that level, it is not belief. You see, for those who can see, it is not belief. For them, it is evident, because they can perceive it, that connecting to her again and again, deeply, 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 will bring the benefit of Sadgati in the end. Very important. She rules over all things, Sarveshwari. She is all things, or she consists of all things. Why? Because everything arises only from consciousness. It only arises because consciousness lends it existence. Thus she is Sarvamayi. She is present in all mantras, not only in those mantras which are directly related to her in this form. She is the mantra Shakti of all mantras. Because mantras at their deeper level are considered a sacred form of speech. There are 4 levels of speech. We'll speak about that at a later point. And at the deepest level, or highest level, depending on how you want to describe it, she herself, the Divine Mother herself, as Chitti Shakti, is present in speech. And thus she's the basis of all mantras. And she's also the basis of all yantras. Yantras are geometric forms like the Shri Yantra, which we will also discuss a little bit later. And these special forms, when we meditate on them, they leave a strong impact on our mind and they activate certain energies in us. But she is not only the Shri Yantra, she is all Yantras. And she's also all the Tantras, Sarva Tantratmika or Sarva Tantra Rupa. The Tantras are the scriptures that describe mantras, deities, yantras, and provide the methods of sadhana to grow, to transform the limited human nature that is driven by kleshas, doshas, purifying these, and then giving rise to a deeper awareness, a luminous awareness. Those are known as tantras. And she is all the tantras. There are tantras related to Shiva, tantras related to Saraswati, to Vishnu, Krishna, to all the deities, Ganesha, Lakshmi, Buddha. There are Buddhist tantras, there are Jain tantras, and she's all the tantras. She transcends the ordinary mind. Manon Mani. We could say the super mind. Sri Aurobindo, a great yogi and poet from South India, who is very well known, he used the term the overmind or the supermind, which is a little bit interesting or funny, but it's a good term in some way. Unmani, she's Manon Mani, transcending the ordinary mind. She is the Shakti of Maheshwara, the great Lord, the energy of Maheshwara, Shiva, Sadashiva, resting here, absolute peace, absolute nirvana, pure presence, pure existence, boundless like space. And she's the energy that is one with him and gives rise to all this incredible experience that we are undergoing. Because that is what consciousness does. She is Mahadevi, the great goddess. We have covered the meanings of Deva before. Just 3 meanings perhaps now again. Deva means to shine, to be luminous. It also means to be playful, Krida. And it also means to overcome. Overcome what? Negativity. And she's Mahadevi, she's the great goddess that illuminates, is endlessly playful and overcomes all negativity. She's Mahalakshmi. Lakshmi means splendorous. Lakshana is related to the same root, to be splendorous, to have qualities, to shine beautifully. And Lakshmi, of course, is also the goddess Lakshmi, goddess of fortune, the consort of Mahavishnu, full of endless qualities of beauty, wisdom, grace, kindness, abundance, growth, flourishing. All these are meanings of the word Lakshmi. And she is Mahalakshmi. And she's Mrida Priya. Mrida again means the compassionate one and can be taken in 2 meanings here. One, that she is the beloved of Shiva, the compassionate one, or that she loves those who are compassionate. Depends on the interpretation, and both is valid. She has a most wonderful form, Maharupa, a great form, as we have described now at length. She's Mahapuja. She's worthy of the greatest puja. What is the greatest puja? The greatest puja is offering our very sense of ego, rather than just offering beautiful things, to offer our very sense of ego and to let that dissolve. That is Mahapuja, and she is worthy of that. And when that occurs, then she is Mahapatakanaśini. She removes all those states and all those conditions that cause us to fall down into lower states. She is also Mahamaya, the great illusion or the great magic. In fact, this always surprises people that it is she who is this great Maya that gives rise to all this. She is that great delusion or illusion or magic. That is why we must connect with her to overcome our own delusion. Very important. Maya means that which is not really. But it also is Maya, that which is Ma, the mother. Thus, when we connect with her deeply and realize Chitti Shakti in ourselves, we become free from Maya. Now, for the last few minutes, I will guide you through the meditation. You are all blessed to be using your time so meaningfully, connecting to Devi in this way. In our heart, there is the ocean of nectar, Sudha Sindhu. And Sudha Sindhor Madhye, in the center of this ocean of nectar, white, endless light, white, as vast as space, like milk. There is the Manidvipa, the island of jewels, living jewels. And in the center of this island of jewels, in the ocean of nectar, in our own heart, there is the forest of Kadamba trees, the hibiscus flowers. Not ordinary hibiscus flowers, but wish-fulfilling flowers. And in the center of this is a wonderful lotus lake, Mahapadmavanantaste. And in the center of this is a wonderful palace in the form of the Sri Chakra. It contains all the deities, all the yoginis, all the Shaktis of the Divine Mother in 9 layers, 9 avaranas. And as we pass through these, all the Shaktis grant us their blessings. And we reach the innermost layer where Lalita Tripurasundari dwells in union with Sadashiva, where the absolute existence and the absolute consciousness are one, where absolute wisdom and absolute compassion are one. Where absolute emptiness and absolute fullness are one. Where absolute emptiness and bliss are one. She's shining with rosy light. That manifests in all the directions, filling us with bliss. Her face is shining like the moon. Her eyes radiate waves of compassion. Karuna Tarangitakshi. And we rest in this state of encountering the rays of compassion, the waves of compassion, in the presence of the Divine Mother. And we know that she's our own innermost nature. Thus, these waves of compassion are our own compassion, our own kindness, our own absolute love. And in this state of absolute love, we rest for a moment without thoughts, without concepts. And then the entire palace and divine island and the ocean of nectar dissolves back into our heart, from where we have created it as a meditation. It dissolves back. And our ordinary consciousness is recognized to be the same as the absolute consciousness, but in our human embodiment. So this was our class for today. If anyone has questions, then we wish you the Divine Mother's blessings and presence. Someone says that there is a strong sense of awareness being located in the head. Maybe just attention, attentiveness. The attentiveness is here, right behind the eyes. That is more the ordinary mind. Of course, the infinite awareness is something to be experienced, but it is really possible, even as a human, to experience infinite awareness. I have a friend in the UK who has only been practicing for 3 years or so, and that person has experienced this recently. So it is possible. But yes, of course, in the ordinary human embodiment, it is here behind the eyes we feel the presence of our mind. Sure, because this is where the brain is and where our senses are in the head. So when we are concentrating more on the senses, that is where we experience the presence of our mind. So the answer is not really an answer, but it is, if you pay attention to the nature of that mind, then you will see that it is not just behind the head. I mean, behind the eyes. Happy Vaishakhi to everybody. And also happy Chaitra Navaratri. Someone says, if we want to begin serious sadhana to experience Sri Lalita Devi, then what should be our first steps? Your first steps should be to remain in this session till the end of the Lalita-Sahasra-Nama, and then we can see about further steps. Because you see, this path has to be deserved, we always say. This is not something, it's not free cookies that we are handing out or toffees or whatever, candy. This has to be earned. So there has to be a true, sincere wish on the side of the practitioners. Wishing you a wonderful week, everyone, rest of the week. And stay full of Maitri and Karuna for yourself as well. For yourself and for others. Hari Om.